I'm Alex.
I'm Cam.
And the XX are a three-piece indie pop band. Uh, Both their previous albums have had great commercial success, and this is the third album. And to start off, I really enjoyed both of the last albums. I thought they have something going with them as just fluidity and the vocalist and the instrumentation all just sync really well. And I don't listen to, so I went into this blind. I know they had a couple singles released, and I went in blind, and I was very surprised. I thoroughly enjoyed this album. A couple songs I didn't really like, but for the most part, I really love this album.
Yeah, I really like the XX as well. I've heard the first album and also heard Jamie XX's solo album, In Colour, which is what I actually wanted this album to sound like mainly. But obviously that's unrealistic as they're still an indie pop band. So, but yeah, I still really liked it. I first heard this in the car on the way home, and it was snowing and it was winter, obviously. And I think it's a really good winter album. Something about the production and how it sounds just really works for me at this time of year.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I heard about the XX, back when their debut was building up buzz, but I don't think I listened to it for a while. Then Jamie XX started breaking out as a pop producer on his own, and I actually didn't care for a lot of the songs that he was involved with, so it kind of turned me away from the XX. But then Coexist came out, and it was getting critical acclaim on some levels, but then some people thought that it was more boring and like a step back from their last album. I gave it a listen, and I thought it was okay, but I haven't listened to it in a while, and I remember it being kind of samey for an indie pop record, and I kind of brought a little bit of worry into this album with me, because I also haven't listened to Jamie XX's solo album, but
Yeah.
hearing this, I was really pleasantly surprised. I thought that it was really pleasant dream pop that had enough elements of other genres going on to keep it from just being as smooth, I guess is a polite way to say it, as other modern dream pop goes, because like honestly the only reference point I have for modern dream pop is Beach House, and I love Teen Dream and Bloom, but I'd be lying if I said I could tell the difference between any of the songs on those albums, like aside from the openers. But I still love the sound of them. And with this album, I thought that it was either like indie pop filtered through dream pop, or dream pop with enough interesting elements of other subgenres thrown in that kept it from just being as samey as some other albums.
Right.
So for me, I think by far my favorite songs around here were Dangerous and Performance. I like Dangerous because like it starts off with some sort of brass instrument, and that was really off kilter and just not really expected, but surprisingly really well done and ear catching. And it got a bit of a funk vibe with it, and it had me dancing. And the lyrics were whatever, like generic lyrics, but they harmonize really well in their songs. Like just listening to both of them like duet, or I guess go together on some of the songs. They do it really, really well, and I was very surprised. On the other hand, Performance, now that was just completely just left field sort of song. It just out of nowhere, Adele inspired song, and it's like a minimalistic guitar playing behind her like very, very remarkable voice, and the lyrics were very relatable and very interesting about like masking your emotions and hiding your true self to please others. And there's this one part where she sings and then she gets louder, and there's just manic violins playing, and I feel like it's kind of showing her emotions, getting fed up with faking herself and not really showing her true self is. But I think that was probably my favorite song on the track, or on the album, which is not even their main style, but it just was
Yeah.
it was done really well.
It was performed really well.
Yeah.
I think my favourite was also Dangerous and the lead single On Hold. And I think the main reason for that is that they hold the most elements of Jamie XX's style. Like On Hold is a funky bass line thing going on, like you say, and On Hold has that vocal sample sped up catchy bit that reminded me of In Colour a bit. So those two were probably my favourite moments, but yeah, I think it was really consistent overall.
How about
Yeah,
you, Cam?
my favorite was actually A Violent Noise, for kind of an odd reason. Do either of you guys know Robert DeLong?
Yeah, I love Robert DeLong.
Yeah, so A Violent Noise kind of reminded me of Global Concepts, only with less pretentious philosophy and a little more actual emotion to it, and a little, like, you know, in Global Concepts you got the, like, did I make money, was I proud, did I play my songs too loud, and, you know, that's obviously, like, he's kind of I kind of got the impression from that song that he's echoing the concerns of people who doubt his ability to go anywhere with music, like, you know, maybe parents or family that aren't very supportive or something, and just kind of make a cynical, dark, danceable song with it. And I like that song, but I think A Violent Noise does the same thing kind of better, because it feels like it actually comes from within the singer himself, and it's not like he's like been internalizing other people's concerns, or it's just like throwing them back at the people who doubted him. It's just like, yeah, I really kind of feel doubt about this, but I'm still gonna make a really good song about it.
Yeah, so
I think A Violent Noise works in spite of itself almost, because Oliver Sim, the vocalist, he was not a very good vocalist in 2009. Like, there's I can't remember the name of it, but there was one song on the debut that was just him and a bass for about a minute, and it almost falls apart. It almost doesn't work at all. But I think his vocals have improved greatly here.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Yeah, and I think he at some points is almost as good as Romy, or at least not any worse than her. Maybe not better, but like they're very equal vocaled in some songs, and I really like that about that song.
So with that song, there's something really interesting I noticed was, like, whenever they say the words "A Violent Noise," the track would go absolutely silent.
Yeah.
And maybe because
I like that.
Maybe because, like, they're trying to imply that, like, silence is the most dangerous sort of noise, like a kind of like an oxymoron sort of in that sense. But I don't know. I think they're trying to say that, and I think it's just tell, like, people telling you that they're not good enough and getting those voices out of your, or trying to get those voices out of your head. I think it was really, really well composed lyrically and instrumentally.
Definitely. Silence can be used very well in music. Like, the sound of silence only works because of how minimal it is. Because when I heard Disturbed cover of that, which completely destroys the, like, meaning of that song and has no silence, no contrast between quiet and loudness, and was just an overblown performance, I knew they hadn't used silence correctly. But yeah, Silent Noise, or Violent Noise, sorry, it uses it very well.
I'm just gonna defend Disturbed for a second, because if you're gonna throw out the idea of what the song originally was, I felt on its own it was a really well good performance. His vocals are very strong in that song as well.
Okay.
But I understand what, like, most people mean, that they kind of just threw out the whole idea of that song, what it originally was made for.
Yeah, in some way, yeah. I don't mind his vocals. It's just, they kind of missed the point. It's an okay performance. I'm just saying he didn't use the silence, how effective it can be, very well in terms of his cover.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyway, we shouldn't be talking about that.
We can talk about everything. Let's talk about cupcakes.
Oh yeah, I like that stuff.
Okay, no.
But yeah, so my least favorite songs were Lips and what was the other one? Say Something Loving. So Say Something Loving was just kind of boring. Like, by no means did I hate the song. It kind of ruined the flow from Dangerous, like the whole funk dancey vibe. And I didn't. It still was a good song. It was kind of boring for me and didn't really do much for me. But Lips, on the other hand, that was the only song I'll say I hated on this album, just because there's way too much EDM and Chainsmokers type vibe in it, and it really had me missing the guitars from the original XX album. And that song had just a lot of dead space.
There's a lot of dead space in the whole thing. Like, even when there are guitars, they're played very well by Romy and very tastefully and delicately, but they're more like to add to the atmosphere than to become a lead instrument almost. In some songs it sounds like the bass is more of a prominent instrument than her guitar playing, which is kind of cool but kind of weird at the same time. So yeah, I definitely agree on Lips. That is the weakest song.
How about you, Cam? Any weak links on this album?
Yeah, I'd say Lips too. But I actually liked Say Something Loving, especially the opening, just the way the vocals sample, just like, that's probably a technical term for what they do with it, but it just like play it out and then just loop the last syllable or even just like the last sound of whatever is said and just lead that into the main song. And I don't know why, like, I like that effect when it's used normally, but it blew me away here somehow. I don't know. But
yeah, I liked it. I liked it as well.
Yeah, aside from that,
yeah.
Sorry, aside from that, I can't think of any lowlights.
But
I think Say Something Loving worked. Even though I do agree with you, Kush, that it's like kind of boring, it's still good. But I think it's good enough that I just think it's a good upbeat pop song. I can imagine on pop radio, like obviously because it's just simple and pop. But yeah, I like that one. I wouldn't say it's bad.
But I think overall, I really did like how they explored like the atmospheric ambient sort of music and the more vocal style music, and
yeah,
even like, because I know like they've typically been more EDM heavy. Well, not EDM heavy, but the ones that were EDM heavy on this album were just not my favorite songs, and I feel like the direction they're going in is the right direction for them because they can do that really well.
Yeah,
I agree.
I think that my two other great songs were I Dare You and Test Me. They were just upbeat. They were just done in a different way, and I think they were actually good that they were placed at the end of the album because it can show maybe the sort of positive, upbeat, sort of up-tempo vibe that they could do with those two songs. They were really good. I don't know why.
Yeah, Test Me specifically. There's a very post-rock like vibe, maybe Explosion in the Sky-esque. It's a perfect closer song.
Definitely.
It was another romance song, which I'm not really the biggest fan of because they normally get cheesy, but I feel like this had a different perspective, which made it not cheesy and was actually enjoyable to listen to and relatable in that sense.
Yeah. When I heard those two, I just knew they'd done a really good album here, and the sequencing was really good. Because I could imagine after On Hold, they could have had two more boring songs, but they actually kept up the consistency.
Yeah, it was very consistent, very concise too. Like, I was surprised it was only like just under 40 minutes.
Yeah.
But I mean, everything really works. It's really cohesive. My favorite thing, I think Kush touched on this, is that there's good harmonizing, but I also just like the fact that they have two vocalists that can trade off.
Yeah.
And, just keeps the album from just getting stale. They can, switch off to another person when Oliver, is it?
Yeah, Oliver and Romy, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, Oliver is obviously the main vocalist, but then Romy has a few songs to herself, and they both just work really well together. And something that I thought about, one thing, like, again, I don't have a whole lot of exposure to Dream Pop, but something I've noticed with some is that a lot of the time the vocalist does their best to match the sound of the album in a way. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that happens on Cocktail Twins a lot.
Yeah. And then my main thought there was like with Beach House, with the way Victoria sings. It's very open and breathy and spacey and that sort of thing. But Oliver, at least, sings in a way that's like, I don't know if it's like mixed above the music, but he also doesn't do kind of a big spacey sound. I don't even know a lot of guys who could pull off vocals like that, but for some reason it just works to make his performances and just the songs on this album stand out from each other,
Yeah, I just like that they're a band with two vocalists, because you don't even get that much, especially different genders, because that adds a whole other variety, because it's well enough having, I guess the stock answer for band with different vocalists would just be the Beatles, or something like that. Lots of bands do, like XTC, whatever, Blur even, well, rarely. And just a band with two vocalists was always going to be more interesting and less likely to produce, even if the material isn't actually that interesting. The fact that they have two vocalists could add a superficial layer to making it less boring, just because you think you're hearing something different, even though it's still the same band. But they actually have good material here, so it makes it really good. Yeah. I just love the vocal dynamic they have, especially since I think Oliver's vocals have really improved and they just sound really good together. And I think that's the main unique thing of this band, as well as Jamie XX's production.
Yeah, another really good point about this album was that every song is sequentially all the way through was very fluid and just sounded really, really good after each other, and it was placed really well. And I think that they must have spent a lot of time organizing this in the right way, because gosh, it was just gorgeous to listen to, like an atmospheric song, then a more danceable song, then a more personal, I guess, emotional song, then another atmospheric song, and it was just everything was positioned very well in this album.
Yeah, they did really well. I really liked how they had a Violent Noise and performance sequence together, because a Violent Noise is Oliver's song and performance is Romy's by themselves, and I think they work really well one after another.
The only problem I had was the first song and the second song. I thought, because I felt Dangerous had this really good dancey vibe to it, and then switching so suddenly to something not as dancey was just kind of like a misstep for them. But I think listening again, I can appreciate that more.
Well, the only way they could have kept the dancey vibe was if they put on Hold as the second song. Which I don't think they should. I think it works at near the end.
Yeah, it works for sure.
So they did the best they could, as best as anyone could, with what they have.
What would you rate it, Alex?
I'm gonna give it a 7. I really like this album.
How about you?
I don't really have anything negative to say. Just I would have liked some more dynamic Jamie XX in color type work, and I think most people who criticize this band were expecting something like that, and I wasn't actually expecting that. But if in a fantasy land where I could have given it a higher number, that was probably the only way. Maybe if Lips wasn't on here, and instead a dancier song, actually that could have made it an 8 or even a 9 if the song's as good as the songs on In Color. But a 7, really good. I really enjoyed it. I'll be revisiting it a lot, because I think it's a good winter album and we still have a solid 5 weeks left, so yeah.
How
7.
about you, Cam?
I'm going to be a little generous and optimistic and give it an 8, and just hope that it holds up to that rating on repeated listens. But even if it drops down to a 7, it's not going to go any lower than that, because I really do love their overall sound. I love the dual vocalists that harmonize well and that hold their own well on songs when they do, and I just think that there's a lot of emotion that could be uncovered here with careful attention. So I think
Definitely.
it's good.
Yeah, I gave it a 7. I feel like they're almost there, almost to that, just the game changing album. And I feel like they have it in them for sure. With some of these songs they for sure have it in them, and they're right there. And I feel like if they go in this direction a little bit further, they're gonna make that album that's gonna just shake up indie pop and atmospheric pop music, and it's gonna be just a phenomenal album.
Well, some people think they already made that with the first one, and that's how a lot of non-EDM pop turned out, or EDM pop or whatever.
I think they
turned
can still do better.
But they can. I definitely think that, because I prefer this to the first album.
Yeah, for sure. I think this is their best album to date.
Same, I agree.
If that's it, then thanks for tuning in to Busted Speakers. Make sure you like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Let us know what you think about this album in the comments below. And check us out on social media.
Yeah.